Hello, and thanks a lot for coming here today. And we are very happy to be here and to present on the topic accessibility and inclusion in digital scholarly editions. Let me say, first of all, that this is part of a bigger initiative, a bigger project that is based at the University of Verona, Department for Foreign Languages and Literatures. We have been awarded a 5-year grant to work on a topic, inclusive humanities. So long story short, it is about pursuing inclusion in science, that is in research, infrastructure, teaching, and dissemination of scientific content. And in the context of this project, we have also established a research center that is called DAI. I do not know if you know Italian, but it means come on. So it is a sort of call to action. It is the digital arena for inclusive humanities, and it is a place in which we explore, create, and apply digital technologies and computational methods to the study of the foreign languages and literatures, always with a focus on inclusion. So we have different lines of research, and one of these lines of research is accessibility and inclusion in digital scholarly editing. We just organized the first conference to start off the conversation with colleagues and peers of the community. And what we are doing and we would like to do is to be seen in this chart. So first of all, we are going to, let's say, analyze the state of the art of inclusion and accessibility in digital scholarly editions, and Raffaele will talk about that later. Then we are going to carry out some surveying activities, like a questionnaire at least, but also focus groups activities. And in the long term, we would like to publish a sort of document or guidelines for accessible digital scholarly editions. And of course, we plan to publish more accessible resources in the context of this project. Let me quote this question that was posed by Catherine Weimer in an article that was published back 20 years ago in the Digital Medievalist Journal. So she wondered, what is the responsibility of the digital medievalists to the disabled? And this brings back to the topic, to the title of this conference. And it is a relevant question for us because we are both medievalists, by the way, but it was also kind of pioneering question 20 years ago. And it is still an urgent question because if you think about the European situation, we have this European Accessibility Act that will be enforced in June 2025. And it is about making digital technologies, that is product and services, more accessible for people with disabilities. So in our screening activities, we started by looking at the guidelines and documents, existing documents concerning digital scholarly editions. And we have several, I would say, the right criteria for viewing digital scholarly editions, the FAIR principles that are applied to the digital scholarly editions. These documents address the topic of accessibility and inclusion in different ways. And I would say that everything fine there? Yeah. And I would say that the MLA guidelines, so the questions for betters of digital scholarly editions, are quite explicit in addressing the issue of accessibility. So there is a part concerning user interface and accessibility, where questions are like, is there a rationale for accessibility standards in the edition? Is the edition compliant with the web content accessibility guidelines? Is it usable on multiple devices and by those in low bandwidth environments? And I think this is also important because it makes us understand that accessibility is not just for the disabled, but it is better for anybody. And you can have different kind of problems that can be temporary problems, age-related problems, and also problems related to specific socioeconomic condition or context that can prevent you from using these digital resources that we built for all, at least in theory. Sorry. Okay. Yes, accessibility is not usability. We know that, but a good graphic user interface can also enhance accessibility. And there are known principles to construct a good graphic user interface, but this principle can represent a challenge to create an interface, a good graphic user interface for a digital edition, because Digital editions, I already heard during the conference, are really special kind of products. They are not just websites, let's say, and they have specific requirements. So, for example, they usually make a heavy use of hypertext or functionalities. Medievalists work a lot with special character handling, or you have a lot of images that need to be manipulated. For analysis purposes, let's say, if you have a TI encoded file, then you might want to have advanced search functionalities. And in general, we can say that editions are rich information environments. You can have glossaries, you can have concordances, texts, images, and everything. So this can represent a challenge in order to create a good and usable interface for your edition. And that can impact also accessibility issues. Among our activities, as I said before, we would like to carry out also some surveys. So we would like to create a questionnaire, but we are not the first ones, of course. We can refer to previous works in this direction that were done by colleagues. And what emerges from these other surveys is that there is a positive attitude towards accessibility too. So all understand that it is important, but it is difficult to implement accessibility in the edition. And when it is done, it is more about the first pillar of the web content accessibility guidelines. So making information and user interface components perceivable by users. Sometimes you found also commentaries by the users of the edition that tell us to make the edition be tested by people with disability. And this is also what we would like to do. By the way, we are also about to publish another questionnaire. This is a joint initiative with colleagues from the Italian Institute for Germanic Study in Rome, because they are developing a platform for publishing digital scholarly edition with a focus on translation. So we thought to create another questionnaire with a section that concerns accessibility in order to see if the situation has further developed. So if people are more aware now, if there is more knowledge, and if there are good practices concerning accessibility. So this is almost ready, and we will publish that soon. I give the floor to my colleague, Raffaele Cioffi.
Well, thank you, Anna, for the first part of the presentation. Okay. Well, a couple of words about the project and the first steps of our project. First of all, we decided to create a small corpus of digital scholarly editions selected from Saleh's catalog. We selected edition among different languages, periods, and typology of scholarly edition. The method of the general screening is a little bit double. First of all, we decided to start with a manual and direct consultation of the edition based on a pre-identified checklist. The checklist is what you can see in the right side of the slide. And moreover, we decided to start another kind of screening based on semi-automatic analysis. We used some common and very easy to use accessibility tools as the Chrome extension CellType, for example, in order to find which are the most relevant weaknesses of the digital scholarly edition. The goal is to detect best practices and worst practices. The first part of the screening, the manual screening, was done by some students of the master degree in Verona. Which are the first insights of the manual screening? Well, first of all, lack of maintenance of many editions. Many editions are not working. Links are not working. Obsolescence of the edition itself. Some pages cannot be found, and an old-style navigation. The modern and contemporary browsers cannot visualize correctly the great part of the old editions. Concerning the accessibility, lacks accessibility features, alt text often missing if present is not correct, fonts and color contrast is not correctly realized, problem with mobile navigation, and most of all, no declaration of accessibility. We have a lot of things about on which we can reflect. Well, another part of our screening was the screening of some edition based on EVT. EVT, or edition visualization technology, is one of the most common visualization tool in the context of European edition, digital scholarly edition. We decided to select edition in EVT created in the last 15 years. Why EVT? Well, because we have a direct contact with the team which is at the base of the development of EVT. The method is, well, semi-automatic analysis, common parameters, the parameters are the same of the general screening, and we decided to use SILTide. Why SILTide? Well, SILTide is a very easy to use Chrome extension, and the usage of SILTide permits us to extend the number of users we can ask to our student to use SILTide because it's very easy to use. Is not is built in order to be used by non-specialistic users, and they can judge, visually speaking, they can judge the weaknesses and the good part of the edition, and they can interpret and give us a feedback of the analysis. And this is a little bit positive. We started with a significant edition for us, and one of the first edition which used EVT, the digital virtual book. The EVT was developed in order to visualize edition as the digital virtual book is. And the digital virtual book uses EVT 1.0. The most common weaknesses are, well, the static slide cannot visualize correctly everything, but okay. The presence only of the banners, the edition, the section and subsection of the edition cannot be browsed and visualized by a screen reader. And this is a little bit important because the screen reader cannot read what the content of the edition itself, and it is a little bit important. The missing alt text. The alt text, if present, is not correct or it is missing, and the screen reader cannot interpret the image. And most of all, the position of the links. The links are not correctly positioned. The position of the link is not correct, and the color used in order to identify the link is not correct, because it is not completely correct to use color shade, the different colors in order to identify different level of importance. Well, the weaknesses in EVT 1.0 are important for another level, because the analysis of EVT 1.0 gives us the chance to reflect on some important give us some important indication on the nature of the analysis itself. Because SILTide is useful to analyze primarily the accessibility rate of the website. DSC are not conceptually similar to a website, but visually speaking, DSC, the digital score edition, are generally realized in a way which is very similar to a static or dynamic website. In this sense, SILTide analyzes the accessibility rate of the visualization tools, and the edition and the contents are accessible by SILTide and by the user only in a mediated form. And for this reason, our analysis is based on what and how the visualization technology shows to the users. And SILTide is a perfect user, is a machine user, but is a perfect user because using SILTide, we can perceive what is correct and what is not correct in the visualization tool. In this sense, we have to return back to reflect not only on the nature of the edition, but on the nature of the visualization tool itself. Another battle we have forgot to fight, probably. In this sense, we have to reflect on a particular theme. Is it really possible to create a truly accessible DSC? Probably at the moment, not at all. It depends on the level of accessibility we would like to reach. Full accessible DSC is now not possible to be reached. We have to work on accessibility since the very beginning, first of all, and we have to base ourselves on very concrete standards. Moreover, it depends on the edition we would like to realize. Simple editions, the editions based on edition visualization technology, for example, well, are easier to be reached in a more accessible way. For experimental project, multi-layer project, we have to think, first of all, we have to think in a modular way. We have to probably try to find the way to guarantee at least one accessible layer to the user, and then starting from the layer, try to reach a more accessible form of edition. Well, probably those are only primary and basic reflection, but what the work we have to do is very long and very hard. But well, probably this is a good starting point in order to reflect on the character, on the shape of digital score edition, and probably on the visualization tools of the digital score editions. thank you for your attention. And well, the slides are, the last slides is, okay, well, thank you.